Hey guys, this is Moriarty,
And this is Brax from the Brax Box.
and today we're taking a look at a brand new game called Neptune Flux, which is out on the PSVR and the Vive, a couple other platforms. I think it's the Oculus as well.
So basically it is out on the big three.
This is an interesting game for me because it is a controller VR game. So you sit down, it's a traditional Oculus style VR game where you are sitting at your desk using your keyboard and mouse or a controller. It's not room scale like your Vives are typically a big room scale, and you use your controllers and you can move around. In this, you're just sitting in your chair and you're controlling a bathysphere, I guess? A little mini sub traveling around the bottom of the ocean.
Alright, that looks very cool. So do you prefer it to be that way?
I don't. I'm a room VR guy. I like to be able to move around. I like to use my controllers and pick up stuff and touch things. I mean, if this game had like controllers right in front of you, you know, like a caterpillar or some sort of heavy machinery, that would have been so much cooler for me. I know why they didn't do that, because theoretically you can play this game without VR.
Right, that's what I was going to say. It sort of seems like it does limit the potential of the VR experience because they did it that way though, right?
A little bit, yeah. Granted, you can still move your head forward and look outside and, you know, look around, but there's not a whole lot of reason to do that once you've gotten past your initial moment of being in there going, okay, I'm looking around. And it really just becomes controlling a submarine. And you can absolutely do that without regards to the VR.
Do you spend the majority of your time in the submarine, like in this view mode?
You spend all of your time in the submarine.
So you never actually get out? I guess it's more of an explorer type thing then?
Yeah, it's an exploration game. So you're always sitting in the submarine. I think it really kind of misses the VR part a little bit because you'll notice that I barely look around. I'm sitting here staring out a window like you're driving a car. And how often in a car do you look down at your feet or look up? It never happens. I don't even know what the roof of my car looks like anymore.
Might have a sunroof, I'm not sure at this point.
Right? It could be a T-top. And so that's just kind of the experience you get there. It's a little bit disappointing, but it's still a lot of fun, and it's very atmospheric. That is one of the things that VR definitely has going for it, is the atmosphere portion of it. Because I tell you what, this started to feel really claustrophobic. And as you're going around underneath the sea, you know, it's got this great opacity thing going on with the water so that it really does look like what it looks like being underwater. For me, I was that kid who thought Jaws was in the pool at night.
Right, absolutely.
I didn't like to go swimming at night. If I couldn't see what was in the water, I didn't want to get in it. This replicates that feeling pretty well, because you'll find yourself sitting there going, man, I don't really want to go out there.
Yeah, it kind of the fear of the unknown, I guess. I could definitely see that.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of a game called Time Machine VR, which was another similar style. You sit in your little submarine and you move it back and forth and you control it. The controls in this one are much better, at least for me, because it uses the controller as opposed to using the Vive controllers. Because the Vive controllers are essentially just like a big Steam controller broken into two.
Right.
Like a thumbstick is really a useful thing for these style of games because, you know, you can do that kind of strafing movement that is so common to gaming that we all kind of get used to.
It is an exploration game. Why are you exploring, if that makes sense? What are you trying to do?
The plot of this story is there has been some sort of cataclysm on the surface of the world. Since we couldn't go to space because we never got that far, instead everybody just kind of goes into the ocean because it's the only clean, safe place to live.
Oh, okay.
And that's as far as the plot has gotten for me so far. There's a lot of mysteries and things that you find out on the floor of the ocean.
I guess you could say that as you explore things, the story tells itself, I guess.
I would say it's more of an overarching atmosphere for the story as opposed to a linear storyline. So you're not going through your story, you're just kind of going through the story.
So it sounds in that regard sort of like everybody's gone to the Rapture or Firewatch or something like that.
Now, a lot of those walking simulators, while they'll be similar to this, there is again some of that kind of free-form exploration. Like, I feel when you talk about something like Infra or Firewatch, it's much more tightly constructed story where it's saying, you're going to go here, you're going to go here, you're going to see this scripted set piece, then you're going to have this feeling, and then you're going to go here and you're going to have this feeling, and then we're going to introduce this thing, and then the story is going to wrap up and then you're done.
In this case, it's a little more along the lines of figure it out as you go along, as you explore. It's not as linear, I guess, then.
Think a little bit closer to like Myst.
Okay.
In Myst, you're not playing your story. Towards the end, obviously, it's a little bit more your story. For most of the time, you're just kind of finding out the story of the world.
Do you collect resources? Are there any elements of that where you need to collect things and have things at your disposal to use to build things better and more efficiently as you go along? Or is it just kind of like, here, connect these pipes together and there you go?
There's a salvage aspect to it. So as you're exploring, you might find a derelict ship filled with oil, and you take that oil and it turns into money.
Okay.
Or you might find a sunken pirate ship, and if you go and take something out of that pirate ship, it is turned into money. And the money then gets spent on the upgrades at the base. You will spend money buying base expansion pods, which you then put onto these steam vents throughout the ocean floor, and it expands that power base that you can see every now and then, the big blue shield, right? That's the area that you can be in where you're not using your battery power.
Well, that's really cool, because I think something that is really important when I play these sorts of games is a sense of achievement and progress. So if I feel like I'm doing something, and I'm growing in some way, that always helps. So if it does allow you to do that, I think that's a positive sign for the game.
Again, you start to get that feeling of like there is the safe area, and the battery feeds into that because you can't go too far from any safe area.
Right, it seems really sci-fi type thing, like a Michael Crichton novel or some of that sort of stuff where you go underwater and you do all of these things that we can't really do in real life, or I guess we could maybe, but it's just the way that it's presented with the lights, and it just looks really sci-fi and really cool.
I think James Cameron would argue that you can absolutely do this.
James Cameron is the first person that came to my mind when we first started watching this.
James Cameron can absolutely replicate this game in real life. So as you go around through, you'll find random spots that have energy fields, which means that you can continue to explore that area even outside of your main base. And you'll find a lot of really neat stuff.
I've seen quite a few really cool things. Like I think he brought up a sunken pirate ship. We've seen that. We've seen sunken planes. It just seems like a really cool game in the sense that, okay, if all I'm going to be doing is exploring, at least let me find some cool stuff, right? And it's doing that. It is doing that.
There's got to be cool stuff, and there is cool stuff. In fact, there's some very cool stuff. As you start to learn how to control your little submarine, you start expanding your base a little bit further.
Can you name the submarine?
I don't think you can name it.
Oh, that should have been a feature.
They should absolutely include that, yeah. Name your submarine. They could just have, like, a little text thing up in the corner so that you can see it. USS Moriarty.
The USS Braxbox. It would be amazing.
It would be cool, right? That's the kind of little things that I think they could definitely see out of this. Now, this game comes out in another couple of days for all sorts of VR things, which is why I think this is really designed for the PSVR first, which is why it's so controller heavy, as opposed to using any of that room scale, which obviously the PSVR does not have.
So what is this game's story, not in terms of in-game, but, development cycle? Do you know anything about how exactly this game came to be?
Neptune Flux has been in development for 2 years. And it is a one-person studio. His name is Nick. So, hi Nick, I'm sure you're watching this.
Well, impressive, for sure, for a one-man team to put this sort of thing together. So there is strategy then. You have to be careful what you are doing as you go along.
Yeah, and there's like little boosters and things that make you faster for a short period of time, and you'll find yourself going, I need to get back home now, so you press the little booster and you can shoot yourself off.
Right, you go into panic mode.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I tell you, man, like you're sitting there in your VR headset, and you've got that little boop, boop, boop sound right next to you, right? And you see the thing up in the corner with the battery going down, and you look around and you're like, I'm in the middle of nowhere, man. Like, I need something. And that's when you really start to kind of freak out. So you're seeing here the upgrade. That grid node at the top allows you to build out your base. You can give yourself more flares, more boosts. You can increase your sonar, so change the way that the sonar works.
Well, I like seeing that. Like I said earlier, as long as the game has, objectives or ways to get better at the game, then it gives the player a reason to play it, right? So that's good.
Yeah, a reason to be better. Yeah, absolutely. And a reason to continue to explore. I worry that a game like this, considering that there is so much salvage just kind of everywhere, that you'll find yourself falling into that kind of Fallout modes where you're just picking up everything all the time.
Every piece of junk ever, exactly.
And maybe that would take away from the actual looking around part of it. I know that every time I broke into a house in Fallout, the first thing I did was just raid the hell out of it. I certainly didn't look at the aesthetics of the house.
Which would be a shame with this game, because it really does look, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's beautiful, but thematically it fits exactly what you would expect out of being in the ocean.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's cool, and it feels like being in the ocean. It really does. You start to feel that.
And being in the ocean wouldn't be beautiful, and I don't think this game does that. I think it makes it look more realistic and, like you said, just really cool.
Very cool. That's it, right? It's cool.
So I guess you could say this game sort of boils down to three things: expanding your base, upgrading your submarine, and piecing together the story as you go along.
All of that comes through exploration. And you just kind of explore. And don't feel like it's limiting, because it does feel limiting at first. The battery life where, oh my god, I can't go anywhere because if I do, I'm going to run out of battery. And I haven't run out of battery to know if you die, but I assume you die, right? Like, that's kind of like the gamer mentality. You run out of battery, that's obviously your life, you're dead. Once you kind of get out of that mentality of, oh my goodness, I'm going to die if I go anywhere, you'll start to see some really neat things. And I believe there may even be just slightly a bit of the supernatural in this game.
Oh, really?
I found a pirate ship, and in the very basement of this pirate ship, there was a piece of something, and it was snoring.
A piece of something that was snoring.
Right? I can't explain it any better than that. It looked like one of those big occult giant symbols that you see on like movies on the ground where, you know, that's where the demon's gonna come through kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it looked like that.
But it was snoring.
But it was snoring.
As if it were asleep.
Like obviously snoring. Like looking through this stuff here, it felt a little bit like actually controlling a submarine. You know what I mean? Like you see those guys with the little drone submarines and they're like moving around looking through windows and stuff. That's what it felt like. It was really cool. This was very, very neat part of the game. It's just sitting here exploring this giant sunken ship.
Yes, exploring the pirate ship is definitely the coolest thing that I've seen so far. Exploring the pirate ship is really selling me on, yeah, I would play this.
Just that alone, just those kind of single set pieces. And that's the thing, this game is definitely designed around those extreme set pieces where you just kind of have the ocean floor and you're going through and there's nothing, and then you come across a massive pirate ship.
Right. And then when you see that one pirate ship, you want to see what else is here. You want to explore more, you want to find something else that's cool.
Next cool thing. Let me see the next cool thing.
Right.
So I don't think there's any sort of like enemies or anything. The exploration alone keeps you moving from one set piece to the next. So it's a very, very cool game. I recommend picking it up. It comes out Tuesday. You don't even need a VR to actually pick it up.
Oh, really?
You don't need one. You can play it with your PC just fine. Play it on your PlayStation just fine with the controller. The VR really adds to it, though, and I think if you're going to play this game, you should probably play it in VR.
Absolutely. Looking at it, I would not want to play it, I don't think, unless I was playing it on VR for sure.
There you go, guys. That is Neptune Flux. If you like it, like it. If you don't like it, don't like it. Go ahead and leave a comment. Join the weekly contest. Remember to subscribe, check out the Patreon, and we'll see you on the next one.